So I'm here to talk about the position of Srila Prabhupada based on this book. This is a product of a committee called Position of Srila Prabhupada Committee, part of the GBC Strategic Planning Effort. Bhakti Chu Swami, one of the co-chairmen, and we've been working together on this committee for a long time. And so this is one of what they call a deliverable. It's something that finally came out. So I was assigned this position of researching the position of Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON as founder Acharya. We knew it was very important. Prabhupada stressed on it so much, especially these words, founder Acharya. So I was set to do some research, and what happened kind of led to the scheme of this book, which is basically a very short document, which is called just the Position of Srila Prabhupada text. And I just sat down. It's like 4, 6, 5 pages early on, and just kind of expressed how I felt about Srila Prabhupada without doing too much research in anything. I showed it to the committee. They said, yeah, it's great, but now write a commentary, because it was very short. So that's what you have here. You have that original text. Of course, it went through some revision in the course of research, but basically that was the form. And then a very long commentary. And if people want a short thing to hand out or to, print in flyers or stuff, the text is there. And here's the commentary. But then when I started to do the commentary, I ran into something very interesting that forced me to do a lot more work than I thought I'd have to. And it's that I was trying to see where this term founder Acharya came from. And so I had assumed, because the case is here, the history is here, how Prabhupada very much insisted upon this. At a certain point, after he got to America, it became very important for him. First of all, he started to use the term almost right away. It makes its first appearance in the second issue of Back to Godhead magazine. It's like at the end of 65 or 66. It shows up once, skips an issue, shows up again, disappears for a long time, and then it became very formal when Prabhupada found out that some of his godbrothers had influenced some of his disciples, and they were kind of doing what they could to not make Prabhupada too prominent. And so after that happened, it became very strongly stressed the importance of this word founder Acharya. And this is documented in here. Let me stop before I go any further. Let me just say, people have found this a difficult book to read. I've got some complaints. And I understand that not everybody in our movement is a native English speaker anyway. But I did it for several reasons, because in the course of the research I found out things that, as far as I know, nobody in our movement knew before. And stating some things that will be new. And so I thought I had to do a scholarly presentation. That is to say, every claim I make, I have to show the evidence for it. And that's why this book has some 80-something footnotes. Because the idea of what makes a work scholarly is that somebody else can read it and check everything that you do. It's not just that it has big words or anything, but that that somebody else can go through and find out where did you get this information from, and can look at it critically. So this is scholarly in that sense. And so I had to document these things. And especially if I'm going to say something that seemed to be new to people. And so that's why this book is the way it is. And also the other thing I was doing is I was writing for the long term. This ended up being called a GBC foundational document. So it's supposed to be something that really was made for the long range future of ISKCON. That was its purpose. So I was thinking of something that would hold up over time. And so it's written on a certain level of how could you say, sophistication. Anyway, there are big words in the back, but there's in this book, but there's also a glossary of words that you may not be familiar with, or that I want to be carefully defined. So you run across a word you don't know, check in the back and see if it's there in the glossary. And also I did it for non-English speakers reading, and it's supposed to be being translated into many different languages, so also that was added as a help to the translator. So the new stuff that happened when I started to do research, thinking it would take a little while longer to write this commentary, is it ended up taking 5-6 years. It wasn't the only thing I was doing, but it got me very involved. Because I had just always assumed that Prabhupada took that position, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had that title, and he didn't. And where I managed to get a hold of my scholarship is a little limited because I don't know Bengali and only very rudimentary Sanskrit. But I did manage to get a hold of issues, the complete issue of almost complete issues of the harmonist, because just the existence of this work was interesting. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur had started, I think, in the late 1870s or early 1880s. I've got different dates. A magazine called Sajjana Toshini. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and that was, of course, very important for him because in the 19th century, journals were a very prominent way of spreading ideas and furthering cultural interests. And it was like the age of the journals. There were so many of them, and so Bhaktivinoda Thakur did the same thing with Sajjana Toshini. And it was his main instrument in Bengal for spreading Krishna consciousness, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Lord Chaitanya's teachings, to the urban, educated Bengali elite, the Bhadralok. And so it was a very important magazine. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur kept it up, and then in 1920 or 21, changed it into an English language publication. Now that's really interesting. I mean, it was their main organ. The Gaudiya became a Bengali language publication. It started a new one, but the main one that was changed into English. And they say explicitly what it's for. It's because they had their focus on world preaching. So you had to, Calcutta was really a world city. Until 1914, it had been the capital of the Raj, the British colonial empire in the east. And people like Bhaktivinoda Thakur could think of themselves as belonging to a world community. Globalism began a long time before this, but this was one of the big boosts in the idea of one world. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote to Emerson, corresponded with people in Europe and America, sent his book to libraries all over, and so on, because that idea, he was the one that really understood this. Krishna consciousness should be spread to the world. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati started this English language periodical. And they sent it out. They mailed it out. And so they changed the name from Sajjana Toshini to the Harmonist. First it was monthly, and then it changed to fortnightly. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was himself the editor. It was important to him that he was the editor of this magazine. And within the pages of the Harmonist, there was a section, had different titles around the mats and so on like that. What was going on, like a news article, what was happening at the different centers, and what Bhaktisiddhanta was doing, where he was going, and so on. And in that section, Bhaktisiddhanta was referred to as editor or the editor. Doing this, giving initiation, meeting with prominent people, always the editor or editor, like this. So this is an important thing for them to do this. So when I started to read it, just sort of looking through it, then the first thing I noticed is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is not the founder Acharya. That wasn't his title. And then if I'm going, two questions. Where did it come from then, if that was indicative from Bhaktisiddhanta? And if I'm going to say Bhaktisiddhanta didn't have or use that title, if he did it one place or two places, I'm wrong. So that means I had to read through every page of the Harmonist to see whether it was there or not. And to trace out what were his titles, because it kind of changed a little bit. But he was the Acharya, usually the Acharya of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or the like that, a very general sense of the Acharya, or just the Acharya. And then he was the president of the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. Vaishnava Raj Sabha is a term found in Jiva Goswami. At the end of every Sandarbha, he mentions the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. Many ways you can translate that. The way so that term appears in there. Whether or not there was an actual organization that far back, I'm not sure. Some say yes, some say no. But what happened is that Sabha means organization, assembly, collection, like the Lok Sabha, the assembly. Vishwa Vaishnava Raj, in the Harmonist, it referred to Lord Chaitanya, the king of the universal Vaishnavas, Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. But other places, it's the assembly, the universal assembly of they take Vaishnava Raj to be the great Vaishnavas, or the foremost Vaishnavas, like that.
Can we translate as the Royal Assembly?
Yeah, the Royal Assembly. That another way. Yeah, the Royal Assembly. But actually, when because Bhaktivinoda Thakur started it again, just calling it Vishwa Vaishnava Raj. And then very ceremoniously, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati re-inaugurated it or re-illuminated it. And when they did that, it's described in the Harmonist and in the Gaudiya, and they say it's Vishwa Vaishnava Raj is Lord Chaitanya, but it's so different things like that. So this was part of I forgot where I lost my train of thought. What I was originally getting to there about. So anyway, this he was the president of the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj, and it was a kind of a little separate organization. The temples, the Gaudiya Math temples, are sometimes described as temples associated with the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. They put on all the theistic exhibits and all these things like that. And they're kind of like overlapping organizations. And had a 3-membership board of Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples that ran this Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. And so Bhaktisiddhanta was the president. And so then, in the course of time, he became President Acharya, with a hyphenated name, but and he was known like that, and that's what showed up on the books and things like that, President Acharya, not Founder Acharya. So that became like, where did it come from, and what did it mean? And I went through every page. Now, the advantage to reading the Harmonist, starting in English language from 1927 and going up to 1936, was I got a sense of what the Gaudiya Math was like when it was healthy. And it was an impressively powerful organization, extremely dynamic, extremely active, expanding like crazy. And you could also see their whole focus was on going to the West. That was the real aim. They expanded very rapidly all over India, but there was no idea, that was just the starting for going to the West. And so their big thing was to prepare their leading preachers to go. And when Prabhupada was ordered to preach in the West, it wasn't like he was the only one. People were supposed to, lots of leading disciples, Sridhar Maharaj, others were told to do it. He envisioned many, many devotees going to the West. And they actually sent a 3-man team, with Ban Maharaj as the main preacher, to London in 1933. And in preparation for that, they made a book called Sri Krishna Chaitanya, which is the first of 3 projected volumes. The writer, the author was Nishikant Sanyal, Professor Nishikant Sanyal. He was professor of history at Ravenshaw College in Cuttack. His initiated name was Narayan Das, and Bhaktisiddhanta gave him the title Bhakti Sudhakar. He gave many titles to his disciples, something they would do in ceremonies, award them titles. So he was Bhakti Sudhakar. And he was Bhaktisiddhanta's right-hand man for English language preaching, because he was very, very good at it. He was also the de facto editor of the Harmonists. So they worked very, very closely together in English language preaching. And they produced this book that when the three-man team embarked for England, they had copies with them. They waited until it was ready, the first volume. They're called Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And I managed to acquire from a university library a copy of one of the original ones that went to the West. And it was a formidable book. First of all, it's harder to read than this book. I mean, it was pitched at a very well educated, cultivated audience. It was clearly, in their case, they really wanted to make an impression upon their English language audience and the intelligentsia it was aimed at. Make a solid impression. And here was a book that was printed in India in 1933. First class paper. Really good paper. I had the original in my hands. The original binding was still on it. And it was also very well done. Very competently printed. Scrupulously proofread. There wasn't a typo that I could find. So they put a lot of effort into this book. A huge amount of effort. I mean, that really, on this effort, that was the concentrated effort of the Gaudiya Math on here. Nishikant Sanyal was the writer. It was published in Madras by the Gaudiya Math there. Bhaktisiddhanta read every page of it. He went over it very carefully with Nishikant Sanyal. And so I had that book. And so when I looked at it, that's where I saw the term founder Acharya shows up. You have to think it's kind of a weird term because we have it, it's like this hybrid, hyphenated English Sanskrit compound. Right? Acharya isn't translated and then founder in English. And really, even at least in our literature, we see Pravartika Acharya in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, but it refers to Lord Brahma. And in Hindi on our buses, it says Samstapaka Acharya, but you can't find it. Maybe something, one Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but in any case, it's not there. In the sense that we use it. Founder Acharya. But then that first appearance I can find there is here in this, the same way we get it in this 1933 book. And it refers to what we call the Sampradaya Acharyas. Because Sanyal is a historian by trade, he's a professor of history. He has a historical sense. So he talks about these four founder acharyas for the Iron Age, he calls them. The Sampradaya acharyas. He says here, when he introduces Vishnu Swami Nimbarka, they call him Nimaditya here, Ramanuja and Madhva, he says here, this is the beginning of his chapter of it, in the table of contents. I'm looking on page 37 if you're in this book. Chapter 7, the founder acharyas, the system of Sri Vishnu Swami, Sri Nimaditya, Sri Ramanuja, Sri Madhva, mark the revival of Vaishnavism traceable to the prehistoric record. See, he's very clear about what's prehistoric. They embody the reverential worship of Vishnu. Their secondary value consists in being an uncompromising protest against the opinions of the speculative creeds. Because he has a whole, this chapter is part of a beginning section, the history of theism. There's another big section, the history of atheism. They go to about 175 pages before they even get to Chaitanya. And so setting the thing is this, after the history of theism, and now we get to the history of Vaishnavism. And here the founder Acharyas are. And so he has these, what he calls the eternal ancient teachers, Lakshmi, Brahma, Rudra, and the four Kumaras. So this is there was the prehistoric record, the eternal ancient teachers, and then they started some revelation that was taken up by these founder acharyas for the Iron Age. Right? And that's how it's used. So then I'm thinking, wow, Prabhupada uses that title. That's pretty bold. Especially if Bhaktisiddhanta didn't do it. Right? It's like, and it really suggests something of somebody in that league. Well, there's a hint of that when you come to this statement I read, their spiritual synthesis, although sound, is incomplete. Because this refers, Bhaktisiddhanta here is thinking about the Navadvita Mahatmya and the teaching which he also illustrated at the Sri Chaitanya Mat in Mayapur, where the four founder acharyas, and this is described in this book, the four founder acharyas are on the four corners. And if you see the little altars of each of them, if you circumambulate the deity, you'll see them. And for each founder acharya, there's Madhva, and then you see in his niche there's also Brahma, and so on. So that's not only in this book, it's like in their parent temple. They were very insistent that this temple is the parent temple of which all the others are their expansions. The Sri Chaitanya Mat in Mayapur. And that Mat is a teaching Mat. And what it teaches, that Lord Chaitanya's philosophy of Achintya Beta Beta Tattva completed the teachings of the four founder acharyas. In other words, the Gaudiya Sampradaya is not just another Sampradaya, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It is the synthesis and perfection of these four Sampradayas. Because Lord Chaitanya is the avatar for the Iron Age. And in Navadvita Mahatmya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur talking as if, he writes as if he were present. He tells the story about how Jiva Goswami, this is after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, Jiva Goswami is taken on a parikrama tour of Navadvip by Nityananda. And in the course of that, it's related how Lord Chaitanya appeared to each of these four founder acharyas and said, you're going to teach this, you're going to teach this, and then I will use these to make to perfect my philosophy. That's basically what's in that book. So that's what's behind this also, this Nishikant Sanyal's presentation, and our idea of what actually is the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Later on in the book I described the Navadvita Mahatmya, that part of it. So that's where Founder Acharya comes from. It's that name. So Prabhupada took it. That's very bold, and what I know about Prabhupada, everything he did was authorized. And one thing that was becoming very clear to me, how much everything he did was based on the example of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Prabhupada I mean, what I learned from this, most of all for myself, is what a great disciple Srila Prabhupada was. I mean, my appreciation for him as a disciple I thought I understood him, but I discovered just what a disciple, how carefully he followed Bhaktisiddhanta. And it's set into relief, by the way, by unfortunately his godbrothers who didn't get it, who weren't such disciples. Because, as I said, many were ordered to do what Prabhupada did. He's the one that did it, and after he did it, he didn't get much appreciation or help or even appreciation. That has to be said just for historical accuracy. So you really saw that how carefully that in fact I began to I regard the Gaudiya Math as the beta test version of ISKCON. Because our Srila Prabhupada looked at some of the things that happened, and he tweaked it. The main tweak being establishing a GBC as soon as possible. Because Bhaktisiddhanta, he said it in his will, but it didn't happen during his time, and it never went into any kind of effective operation. It was never really established. They selected one, but nobody did anything. And instead, one person proclaimed he was the next Acharya. Those that didn't like him took shelter of the other guy who proclaimed he was the next Acharya, and then they split. And it fell apart. All that work. And one thing I think essentially you can get from this book is what the Gaudiya Math was like when it was healthy. And then from that I got the appreciation for the depth of Srila Prabhupada's crushing disappointment at what went on. How it crashed. They had actually sent people to England. It was big. You can trace how they celebrated this in the pages of the Harmonist. When Bon came back, he was greeted with celebrations and so on. He went to see the Maharaj of Tripura, had an old connection with Bhaktisiddhanta's family, and who agreed to pay for the London temple. I mean, it was going to be a big thing, but then Bhaktisiddhanta got very disgusted with Bon Maharaj, recalled him, and then shortly thereafter he passed away. But they were making they made disciples. They got a really good reception from the academics in Germany and nearby countries, University of Prague, for example, and so on. They were quite confident, and then Bhaktisiddhanta left, and they split apart, and it just stopped. It stopped completely, and what became clear to me is how Srila Prabhupada started up again just where the Gaudiya Math had left off. The whole thing had fallen apart, and when Prabhupada took it up, he just amazingly, he saw what needed to be done. He also went, following Bhaktisiddhanta, first of all, like they did, he started preaching in English with a journal, Back to Godhead magazine. When he was planning to go to the West, he also ends up with a 3-volume work, the first 3 volumes of Bhagavatam with him. So he translated and brought books with him. He followed everything extremely closely. Just modeled him exactly on what he did. And when it started up again, it was like, there was that gap. But you have to say, and one thing about Prabhupada that's really very interesting, he blames himself. There's a number of lectures where Prabhupada said, I was ordered as a young man to preach in the West, but I was entangled in family life. I couldn't do anything. Finally, in my old age, I've been able to at least do something, so I to follow my spiritual master's order. I've not been able to do anything, so he said to his disciples in the West, his American disciples, but now you've helped me and something's happening, so I have to thank you for helping me fulfill the orders of my spiritual master. So he takes it on himself that it's my fault I didn't do anything. I received this order as a young man. I was 70 years old when I'm doing it. But Krishna is in charge of timing. First of all, 1933 was not the greatest year in history, because that was the same year Hitler came to power in Germany, and all hell literally was about to break loose for quite some time. And I imagine if Prabhupada came to America in 1955, what would have happened? So Krishna is in charge of timing. He came at the right time. And he was able to continue. And very much the continuance of Bhaktisiddhanta's mission. So, anyway, but we would go back to where Bhaktisiddhanta didn't have the title Founder Acharya. But then we find in the Harmonist, in 1936, when they were celebrating the opening of another big project toward world preaching, the Gaudiya Math in Calcutta, the big marble temple. That was a big expense, which was going to be their headquarters for world preaching. And there, at that time, you see in the pages of Harmonist, that temple was greatly celebrated. But also there was an effort to make people understand that this temple was not actually the main temple. The parent temple, and it was stressed in a number of issues of the Gaudiya Math, was the Sri Chaitanya Math in Mayapur. And the Chaitanya Math in Mayapur, I'm getting the names right? Yeah. The Gaudiya Math, the Sri Chaitanya Math in Mayapur is their central temple. The Gaudiya Math in Calcutta is its expansion into what they call, quaintly, I think, the modern urban environment in Calcutta. Its main expansion. But they wanted to insist that it was subordinate. And in making that case, and one reason later becomes, those become the two completing centers of power that where the Gaudiya Math split. Those two temples. And of course, we know that Prabhupada heard from Bhaktisiddhanta. He became disgusted with the Gaudiya Math in Calcutta. That was the one he talked about tearing the marbles off and printing books, because my disciples are simply fighting for who gets the best room. So he wasn't really happy with that. So there was this was the problem there. But what we find out is when they're going to describe, in 1936 there was a 3-part series article called the Gaudiya Mat, referring to that opening of the temple. And it's not signed. An unsigned article in the journal meant it had editorial endorsement. It's clearly written by Nishikant Sanyal. And that's where we find that... Shwari, could you look up and tell me which page it's on so I don't have to look for it? That's where we find the term Founder Acharya used in a kind of firm but subtle way, unheralded way, for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in this article. Because in the course of describing the relationship between the Chaitanya Mat and the Gaudiya Mat, there's a whole ecclesiology, a philosophy or theology of the mission, explaining that the parent Mat is the Sri Chaitanya Mat in Mayapur. Why is that? Not just because Mayapur is where Lord Chaitanya appeared, because Mayapur is the descended spiritual realm. In other words, there's a Mayapur is Svetadi in the spiritual world, because Chaitanya Leela is in the spiritual world. And so that part of Krishna Loka is Lord Chaitanya is there. And that it says that this Sri Chaitanya Mat in Mayapur is actually eternally situated in the spiritual world and just manifested down here in this world. Now the whole Dham is descended. And he said it's there together with the Founder Acharya. In this article, the word Founder Acharya is used to describe Bhaktisiddhanta, refer to Bhaktisiddhanta. He uses that term. It's not hyphenated. You found it? What page?
There's one on page 50, and then it's also earlier stated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, yeah, on page 50, there's not 50. Yes, yeah, right. It says it's previous. Where's the earlier part?
43.
43, excuse me, yeah.
42 and 43.
So here's these articles from the Harmonist, right? So notice this language. The Gaudiya Mat, meaning the Calcutta temple, is the principal branch of Sri Chaitanya Mat of Sridham Mayapur. I keep their original spelling here, by the way. The distinction between the Gaudiya Mat and Sri Chaitanya Mat is all analogous to that between one lamp lighted by another. We recognize that analogy. It's from the Brahma Samhita, how Krishna and Krishna's expansions are the same, like one lamp. So similarly, it's there, suggesting that the whole institution is spiritual. It follows these same principles. The Gaudiya Mat is the expansion of the Chaitanya Mat in a visible form into the heart of the world. Earlier in the article, they used the word modern urban environment. Sri Chaitanya Mat is eternally located as the original source, even when it is manifested to the view of the people of this world. It's eternally located as the original source. In the transcendent environment of the eternal abode of the divinity. The activities of the Gaudiya Mat and the other sister branch mats are, however, essentially identical with those of the Sri Chaitanya Mat and are categorically different from the ordinary activities of this world. So here he's described a kind of a spiritual thing where, like, there's, even though here's the parent Mat, because it's a spiritual institution, the expansions away from it are still identical with it. And both of them are not part of the material world. So then he says in the same harmonious article, one page later, at the page 43 here, the Gaudiya Mat is also identical with its founder Acharya. So there it shows up with reference to Bhaktisiddhanta. And this is written at the same time that the book is being written. Right? Yeah, 1930. This is so that book is being prepared. So he knows the term Founderacharya, what it means. And the associates, followers, and abode of his divine grace are limbs of himself. So this is where Prabhupada, ISKCON is my body. None of them claim to be anything but a fully subordinate limb of this single individual. Not just the Guru, not just the Acharya here, the founder Acharya. This unconditional, causeless, spontaneous submission to the head is found to be not only compatible with, but absolutely necessary for the fullest freedom of the initiative of the subordinate limbs. So they go on and describe all activities of the Gaudiya Mat emanate from his divine grace. The reality of the whole activity of the Gaudiya Mat depends on the initiative of the Acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mat of Sridham Mayapur reveals the source of the Gaudiya Mat, the Calcutta temple. In other words, they're make sure you know it's subordinate. The Acharya dwells eternally with the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, in his transcendental abode in Sridham Mayapur, White Island of the Scriptures. From there, the Acharya manifests his appearance on the mundane plane for the redemption of souls, and so on. So here's where it's introduced with reference to Bhaktisiddhanta. And then in a footnote I tell a couple other places where the same ecclesiology is restated about that. And also he says, I point out where in the 36th issue of the Harmonist, December 24th, it appeared just before Bhaktisiddhanta left his body, but it was written obviously before then. But again, Nishikant says, the Gaudiya Mat is the instrument and counterpart of his divine grace Paramahamsa Paribrajakacharya Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. It lives and moves and has its being in the founder Acharya. And this time he's got a capital F and a capital A on there. So that's so my inference from this is that the title was being prepared for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was well known. He was planning to go to the West. It's mentioned in the Harmonist. He had plans to go to the West. He would and to England and then to America. And my conviction is that this title was sitting there. When he would have done that at some appropriate time, he would have been offered this title of Founder Acharya. So but he didn't go. It got stopped. Everything came to a halt, and not only did they not go forward, they went backwards. They split up. They fought with each other. People were going to the West. Ban Maharaj kept going, even though he was recalled by Bhaktisiddhanta, who refused to see him and referred to him sometimes as Banasura. He became very disgusted with him. I don't know the whole story behind it, but it was and wrote to the Maharaj of Chapur not to give him any more money. And Prabhupada said that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he didn't have to leave his body, he left out of disgust. Which is something I don't really want to repeat in this book, but that's what he said. And Srila Prabhupada understood all this. And so, when Prabhupada has that idea in his mind, what corroborates the fact that he was thinking of Bhaktisiddhanta is the pranam mantra. He was asked to give him, Tamal Krishna, I think, asked, can you give us a special mantra just for yourself instead of the generic, pranam mantra for a guru? This came, and I think it was written by Prabhupada. I understood anyway that it was written by Prabhupada himself. I don't know where I heard that, but early on when it came, that's what I was told, because none of us knew enough Sanskrit to write it. And then he made a grammatical tweak in it, and then, but that was it. So notice that mantra, Namaste Saraswate Deve. So many times people are chanting, and even Prabhupada complained about it, Namaste Saraswati Devi. It's not to the goddess. It's Prabhupada's patronymic. It's Saraswata. It's the word Saraswata, meaning son or servant or disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But with the long A first and the A on the end, Saraswata. So we're offering obeisances to the son or the servant. So it's significant that for that mantra, he uses his name as the patronymic. He puts Bhaktisiddhanta's name with a tweak to become him. Why? Because he's continuing on. Bhaktisiddhanta circumstantially couldn't go any further. Prabhupada understood what he wanted and did what he wanted, and it was proof to Prabhupada that Bhaktisiddhanta wanted it because it worked. Because circumstantially, by Krishna's will, Prabhupada was deprived of every asset before he came to the West. He didn't have institutional support. He didn't have money. The Indian government let him take out 40 rupees. He didn't have any money. He didn't have any institutional support. And when he tried to get it, he couldn't. After he was here, he didn't have youthful energy and vigor. I'm, turning 70s in a few days, and I know what it's like. And he didn't have good health. He had a heart attack on the way over. Every single thing you think, he didn't have it. And he ended up almost homeless in New York City. And then everything started to happen. And very quickly, he had carried on the mission. So to me, Prabhupada understood that it only happened by the grace of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Because one thing is to my credit, Prabhupada told, I have always followed his orders. That's the only thing I followed his order. And when he did it, he took that bold step of actually, launching himself out into the unknown without any of these assets, that it happened. So he's Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya. He's preaching in the Western countries this mission of Lord Chaitanya in the West. And what is the West? They're full of Nirvishesha and Sunyavada. That is also the work of the founder Acharyas. They're noted for this uncompromising protest against the speculative creeds. That's what they did. That's their signature work. Well, when Prabhupada got to America, everybody was a Buddhist, and of course, the Ramakrishna Mission was sitting up pretty prettily in the Upper East Side of New York, with a fashionable following. When they refer to the uptown Swami, that was Swami Nikalananda, who was running the Vedanta Center in the Upper East Side. So there, the Mayavadis were there. He met Allen Ginsberg, who was chanting Hare Krishna, but Allen Ginsberg also used to chant Gate, Gate, Parigate, Paribodhi, Swaha, this Buddhist chant, I didn't see any difference between that and Hare Krishna, so that's what he did. So to my mind, this pranam mantra also shows that Prabhupada exactly was just seeing himself as simply the instrument of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. In other words, what Prabhupada is an example of, when you think of an empowered devotee, yeah, somebody's great. But the empowered devotee is somebody, from his own point of view, who has become very small. Their false ego is gone, and he's simply the servant. And that's what we learn from Srila Prabhupada. To become great in Krishna consciousness, we have to become small. If you're looking to become great, you're very small. And we've seen in our movement enough experience of the great turning up to be very tiny. So Prabhupada exemplifies this. He teaches by his example. And because of his becoming the servant, we have the Hare Krishna movement today. The last thing I want to say before we have some time for discussion is that we owe Prabhupada. We really owe him. And he set up ISKCON following this ecclesiology that we find in the Harmonists, in this 1930 issue, because the other thing we could never figure out after Prabhupada came here and started the movement is, of course, we know that very early on he tried to get some land in Mayapur. And when he got it, he called it international headquarters or world headquarters. And as soon as he got the land, he would have gotten it earlier, but he had active opposition from some of his god brothers to try to stop him from getting any land. And as soon as he got it and was able to do so, at Gaur Purnima of 1972, he established the foundation of the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium. Put the Ananta Shesha's cornerstone in there. He started it. And then I remember when we went there for the first pilgrimage, and we were told this is our world headquarters. The GBC is going to meet here. Has annual general meeting here. Very important that it be at this place. There was no telephone. There wasn't even a landline. We were bathing out of hand pumps, and all around, as far as you could see, is cane fields, and this is the world headquarters. We had no, what is this for? But now we can understand from this ecclesiastical model what he was doing. And so we have a kind of map of the whole of ISKCON. With the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium in the center. Circumstantially, Prabhupada's Pushpa Samadhi right at its entrance. We wanted to put the GBC at the time, or where we were going to put it. We were trying to make an even bigger temple on more land, but it was anyway, we went through all kinds of things, and it ended up being where it is now, the original land that Prabhupada bought, with a continuous piece of land, which is on the old map, some old map, it's designated as Mandir land, so we could get by all the politics of Bengali agricultural usage and land usage and all that stuff. So that's where it ended up. Prabhupada's right there in that samadhi in that very big golden form. And viewing all these temples, including this one, as connected with that one, as the branches of the main temple. People come here and to all our other temples in ISKCON. They get trained up. They enter the spiritual world. Every temple, there's Srila Prabhupada presiding in his Vyasasana as our founder Acharya. And from there we go to the center. And what does that temple illustrate? It illustrates the way back to Godhead. It shows you the path that leads from the center, from the branches to the center in Mayapur, has another path that goes up. And the journal of Gopakumar, Journey of Gopakumar of the Briya Bhagavad is illustrated there, and you see the universe as far as I can see, as the yogis see it, as they understand it, and as a yogi can take the air up the chakras, so similarly you go up the universal body, up the chakras to the higher planetary systems, and then you into transcendence, and that's the map to that other ISKCON. Prabhupada said in the letter, we will have another ISKCON there in the spiritual world, where Prabhupada is there now, and that's the whole of ISKCON. And that's really the position of Srila Prabhupada as founder Acharya. Okay. I hope you read this book, even though it may be a little difficult, and we all have time issues and so on. But I hope it does for everybody who reads it what it did for me writing it. Let me put it that way. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask Maharaj, you want to add anything?
Well, brilliantly presented as usual. And I think it's necessary, like before reading the book or while reading the book, they get, your presentation. Because I think that makes it easier for them to understand. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, I heard devotees saying that it's difficult to read and things, and that's why we need to kind of have sessions like this to make the devotees understand. And I think it would be great, if you go around the world to all the temples and making this presentation. I'm seeing that it's so well appreciated by the general body of devotees. And we'll also try to make, like say maybe we'll probably have this recorded, the recording is already going on, and we can, distribute it extensively to the body of the devotees.
Well, you're still on the committee, your job is...
Well, I'll try.
Oh, you're doing very well, I think.
Thank you. And I think we got the best person to write this book. And in a way, I feel it's Krishna's arrangement. Like, as you were presenting, like Prabhupada, why Prabhupada went, or rather, why put Krishna to Prabhupada at that, old age. Like as you said, in 33, the world wasn't ready for Krishna consciousness. But the world was ready, at least America was ready in mid-60s.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, and Prabhupada comes right at the nick of the moment, and, things start happening. And, this American involvement was very, very important in this movement. Prabhupada himself said, the whole world is looking up to America, and whatever the Americans do, they will follow. And that's what happened. Prabhupada attracted the American youth, or by Krishna's arrangement. These American youth were actually posted there to help Srila Prabhupada at the right time.
That's what he told us, huh?
Right. And then what happened is the biggest miracle in the world. And now it's a matter of continuing it. Where Gauriya failed after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance. But ISKCON succeeded. 37 years after Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, ISKCON is still alive, ISKCON is still together, and ISKCON is expanding.
Yeah, well, we have to keep working at it.
Right, yeah. And it seems that we are moving in the right direction,
But it's what we have to realize is this kind of the principle of unity and diversity as a concrete principle. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that because you're reconciling opposites. But that's what, a famous theologian, Nicholas of Cusa, he described God as the coincidence of opposites. What is it in Latin? I forgot. But it's the unity of opposite things. Because Krishna there's diversity and there's unity both. And if you look in art, what beauty is unity and diversity. If you have just unity, it's monotonous. One canvas with nothing but black, or nothing but green, it's just monotonous, it's boring. If you have diversity, it's chaos at the extreme. It's just total chaos. It doesn't hold together. But if you have both of these things, if you have unity and diversity together, then it becomes beauty. And the greater the diversity, the greater the value of the unity. So this is, something that we have to realize. And because by having diversity, then each individual will each be very much ourselves while we're still in offering everything that we can in Krishna's service and contributing our full measure of what we have to Krishna's service and still be part of a whole that's always growing and increasing. And of course, there's organization, because clearly organization, one thing that Bhaktisiddhanta was so important on, and Giriraj has this thing where he said to Prabhupada, what do you think we need most? And he said, Giriraj Goswami actually came up with two pertinent quotations I heard later. When Prabhupada was getting the land for the temple. This temple is very important for you, and as important as book distribution. And he said, yes. Why was this temple so important? So he said that. And the other thing he told in his last days, Giriraj Maharaj, what do we need? And Prabhupada said, organization. It wasn't some vast spiritual thing, he just said organization. Because organization is a force multiplier. If there's 5 people and 5 of us, each of us working separately, we can do things to the value of 5. If the same 5 work together, it's the value of 15 or 20. And that's what Bhaktisiddhanta understood very, very well. And so he created this organization like that. So as difficult as organizations are, it's worth working at it. And for realization of both getting the full benefit of our offering to Krishna by working together, and by realizing as much as we can this unity and diversity. Anyone else have a question?
You have any questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm here for the first stop of your book tour. And I don't think you mentioned it. You mentioned that Bhakti True Swami is on the committee. I don't think you mentioned he actually wrote a wonderful foreword to the book. So we now have that.
Thank you.
They seem to be having a lot of success in the 30s, or a decent amount of success in the 30s when they went to England. I was just wondering if there's anything else that you feel comfortable in saying in terms of why he told them to come back and what the problems were with Ban Maharaj, if things seem to be going fairly well.
My one hint that I have is that there was some disagreement about preaching strategy between him and Bhaktisiddhanta. I think Ban Maharaj went there, saw how things were going, and now then thought he knew better than Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about how, what the specifics of that are. I don't really know what it is. The other thing is, I was told by somebody that Prabhupada, Ban Maharaj had gotten this Institute for Oriental Studies right across the way from us in our temple in Krishna Balaram Mandir. And that was carrying on his preaching. I mean, he was going to the West. He kept on going. In 1972, he was in America. So he wasn't that he wasn't going, but what he would do, and this was his preaching strategy apparently, would go to universities where he associated with professors and give a talk within a university context to a group of professors. That's what he did. And his Institute for Oriental Studies was supposed to be something like that. Of course, that institution is no longer with us. It was taken over, he affiliated with the University of Agra, and now they're teaching typing skills or something. I don't know what's going on there now. It's kind of vocational college or something, so it's all over. But that was his. So there was some disagreement, and Prabhupada also said that property, the money that Ban Maharaj got to pay for that property, was money that was supposed to go to the temple in London. So the idea that, I do know that Bhaktisiddhanta wrote to the Maharaj of Tripura not to give him any more money. There may have been something about that too. One thing that's very interesting is that you can see by the book Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and you can see from the kind of orientation of the kind of people they were preaching to in England, that the Gaudiya Math was thinking, for good reasons, that what they have to offer is something of such high worth. I mean, we have acharyas like, the Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, or like Baladev Vijayabhushan, extremely learned, highly educated, cosmopolitan people in our line, that the people that would be receptive would also be very educated, sophisticated, kind of elite people in the country. And that's what they were looking for in England. And then when Prabhupada went to America, if you look at the first volume of Bhagavatam, then he was also thinking toward the educated elite. And who showed up in America was not those people. It was, young people, and many of them, you read Prabhupada's description of hippies, lazy, intoxicated, unbathed, lying in the street, description of the mode of ignorance. He didn't appreciate them, but that was the milieu, the counterculture of the 60s, that these people came. And Prabhupada did their laundry for them in the beginning. Ban Maharaj would have turned up his nose. I'm not looking for you. Most everybody I know in the Gaudiya Math would not have. But Prabhupada saw the potential and he went for it. He did like that. And of course, the first criticism of him from his godbrothers was, oh yeah, he went to the West, but he could only, make drug-addicted hippies. He couldn't get really educated, refined people. I had this once experience. I didn't understand it at the time. One night in Mayapur, I was one of the early pilgrimages, and I was in a room with about 8 or 12 temple presidents bunking. And it was not late at night, and somebody came and knocked on the door and said, it was 9 o'clock or something, Prabhupada wants to see you. And I was, getting ready for bed. So I put my dhoti back on and went across a dark campus, and he was a dark campus, and he was on the second floor of the Lotus building. Only his light was on. I went up there and went inside, offered my obeisances, and Prabhupada is there behind his desk, and there was 2 or 3, I think 2 sannyasis from the Gaudiya Math. I recognized Prabhupada's godbrothers. And Prabhupada beckons me to come over to his desk, and I walk over and sit down. And then he says to me, he says, what are you writing your doctoral dissertation on? And I thought, why does he want to know that for? And I said, well, I just in fact completed a proposal. I didn't end up doing it on that. I said, well, Prabhupada, I want to write about the philosophical, historical, sociological, economic, and psychological necessity of Krishna consciousness. Something like that. It was really like that. I still have the proposal in my files. By the way, I tried to get it. You have to get a three professor committee to be on your dissertation, and I could only get 2. And finally one guy says to me, he says, look, this is not a doctoral dissertation, this is a life's work. He says, fine, you better get something smaller. Anyway, so but anyway, I told him that to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, he says, all around necessity. I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. He said, thank you very much. And I offered my obeisances and walked out, and what was that about? But then later I learned, this idea that they were saying that Prabhupada only had drug-addicted hippies, that he was bringing me in to show here's somebody writing a doctoral dissertation on the share to something that somebody can be writing a doctoral dissertation and not be a drug-addicted hippie, as people have managed to bridge that gap sometimes. But anyway, that's another story. So it was that they were not into it. They were like using it to disparage Srila Prabhupada. And that's what happened. But he did it. When whoever showed up, he just. And I remember hearing this conversation from Prabhupada at the University of Ohio with Allen Ginsberg, who at that time was the openly gay man in America, and he was there with his boyfriend. And Ginsberg says, I think the Swami is very conservative. And Prabhupada went conservative. But he must be thinking all the time because he went on stage and had Allen Ginsberg lead the kirtan. That's what he did in San Francisco, and he did it again at the university. Because he knew Ginsberg had a following, So anyway, maybe yes.
I guess my question's a little bit similar to Yadanath Prabhu's question. I was just wondering. Maybe this is asking you to speculate. I'm not sure if you can answer, but. Why was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati waiting for that, transatlantic voyage to accept that title? Do you surmise, or was it reactionary against the the kind of the apparatus of Ban Maharaj? I mean, was he doing something to react to the...
Well, Ban Maharaj was going to prepare the way for Bhaktisiddhanta. That wasn't that he was going to counteract anything there. He was supposed to go and prepare the way. That was part of the success.
I mean, his use of his waiting to use the word founder Acharya.
Well, my evidence that as soon as Prabhupada thought he could see he had something established in America, so very early on, that founder Acharya was there. It didn't come into strict usage until a little while later.
But I mean, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, my question is, why was he waiting until it appears as though until he himself could travel to the West? Was it some reaction against Ban Maharaj's?
No, I just think that he wanted to be there on the cutting edge of preaching himself. I don't think it was in reaction to Ban Maharaj.
Why did he use it in India back to them not to the time?
While he was in India,
Yes.
he could have, but one of the things that the founder Acharyas did was they spread Vaishnavism. And when they say the West in Bengali literature, they mean West, the western part of India, which has really fallen in their estimation. Am I right? I believe so. This is but for him the West was the whole rest of the world. I think we have to have an arti here too. Huh? Okay. But anyway, that would have cemented that the founder Acharyas, they managed to spread Krishna consciousness at least in the Indian subcontinent, and maybe into a bigger India than is there now. But Bhaktisiddhanta took it all over the world. To me, that's what, in fulfillment of Chaitanya, that's why seems to me it was being prepared for that. It was because it was just going to be their next big occasion when he went himself. And remember, they're looking at this historically. That Chaitanya comes, and he's going to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. That's going to happen, and Prabhupada said it's going to happen also. You should do it and get the credit. If you don't do it, somebody else will. So he had that sense of inevitability, and that's just my intuition. And it was clearly being prepared for him. So it's just my speculation that would have been the occasion, either when he went to the West or when the movement. See, because the next thing, one thing that was very important to establish the movement, you had to have a temple on land that you owned. And so they would have the land and the temple in London. And then when Prabhupada first came to get a place in New York, he wanted to own land. You can't really install deities unless you own the land. I mean, he finally compromised on that principle. But he was looking in New York City to buy a building. And he had a donor in India. All he needed was some godbrothers. This is documented in this booklet. All he needed was some godbrothers who were well connected with the Indian government, just to go to get them release the currency. All he needed to do is spend a half a day in the bureaucracy and to get them, and they didn't do it. Ban Maharaj could have done it. Tirtha Maharaj could have done it. There was at least three of them that were well enough connected that they could use a little persuasion to release the funds. But he was looking to buy this building. So I understand that was like to establish the movement in the West, you would have purchased the building. So they were going to have one in London. But between Bhaktisiddhanta's time and Srila Prabhupada's time, the center had changed from London to New York, So it took a while to own a building. Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions for you. Thank you so much for the wonderful, really enlightening. First thing, when you talk about like in Sri Krishna Chaitanya and also in the harmonies, the word being used on the Acharya, was that during Bhakti Saraswati Thakur or was it after he had departed?
No, during.
So, like, was there any reaction of Bhakti Saraswati Thakur to that use of the words?
He must have approved of it. He was the editor. Sanyal was his right-hand man for English language preaching. And Bhaktisiddhanta was very, very careful about the preaching. So either he was asked or he just tacitly approved of it. I think this was the, when all these kind of things with titles is a certain etiquette. I mean, Prabhupada didn't actually allow himself to become Prabhupada until somebody asked. He didn't do it, So. And
the other question I was going to ask was, when we talk of like the four sampradayas, so, and we are using the term founder Acharya for Prabhupada, but like I'm just thinking that it's kind of different than those sampradayas because like Prabhupada is not like establishing any sampradaya. Like, I'm just trying to understand like, the difference.
The parallel is a little different because they had their original prehistoric teachers. Our original teachers are not prehistoric. Lord Chaitanya appeared in historic time. So whenever, before the creation of the universe, the Lord enlightened Brahma. That's definitely before the history of the universe. So, but now, what corresponds to that is Lord Chaitanya teaching Sanatana and Rupa Goswami say. So that happened fairly recently. And so, what corresponds to those original prehistoric, those would be to Brahma, would be Rupa Sanatana Goswami. So it's a little different because we don't go back that. In a sense, we're part of it because we come in the Madhva Sampradaya. But it's when Lord Chaitanya appears, as far as we understand, this is fulfilling all four sampradayas with the Chincha Veda Veda Tattva. That's the importance of it. So it's not exactly a complete parallel situation. And when you look at the effort and of course all those people, Ramanuja had his predecessors, he had the Alvars, it wasn't like that he brought, even Love and Separation was there before Ramanuja was there. And they all had their teachers. There's also a lineage, we don't know exactly what it is entirely that goes up, but they somehow or other managed to get enough organization going to spread their particular take on Vaishnavism in a widespread way, and all of them counteracted Madhva. They all counteracted Buddhism actually, Nirvishesha and Shunyavada, both of them. Somebody was saying, well, they all wrote a commentary of Vedanta Sutra. What about Prabhupada? But we've always felt that our sampradaya has felt that you don't need a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, really, because Srimad Bhagavatam is the author's own commentary. Baladev did write Govinda Bhashya, but that was under kind of special circumstances, so we've already got one if you really need a formal one. And so by writing a commentary on the Bhagavatam is like writing a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, and that Bhaktisiddhanta did, and also our Srila Prabhupada did too. Okay. Yeah, well, good. Right here.
How does the concept of Srila Prabhupada being the founder Acharya, I guess I'm wondering how the concept works backwards. Did he start something new because if Bhaktisiddhanta is the founder Acharya, and then he's a founder Acharya, and then the disciples who follow in his wake, is there something that's set or settled in his identity? I mean, I suppose it's in the book, but I haven't finished it because I only had it on computer until now. But I sometimes hear things from people, from teachers within ISKCON and without, that there's a kind of idea that, we have a lineage, we have parampara, and Prabhupada, he's special because he brought Krishna consciousness to the West, but in terms of teachings, it seems that he is in a context.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's true about the original founder Acharyas too.
Right. So I guess I'm wondering, is there something special within that founder Acharya context in terms of the teachings? Or you mentioned preaching strategies before. Sometimes it's hard to wonder because we have innovations, we have changes and things like that. Where to draw the line between what the Acharya has said and what is, optional or changeable.
The teachings remain the same. The question is application. So Prabhupada learned how to apply it in the modern world. He learned had a vocabulary to explain it to people. And he made an organization. What he really, I think, embodies, and what ISKCON should embodies, is this compassion, feeling for suffering humanity. In this book you'll find a place where Prabhupada describes how he got this order from his spiritual master to go to the West. And then he says, now on this auspicious day of my spiritual master's disappearance, I'm going to give you the same order that he gave me. He said, now you have some understanding of this Krishna consciousness. We were new, very new then. Now you should have some feeling for suffering humanity. So that, to go to the West is a specific instance of feeling for suffering humanity. And it's that strong feeling for suffering humanity that Prabhupada wanted, especially to be embodied within ISKCON. And it's clear that Bhaktisiddhanta had that feeling. It's not clear that anybody else of his godbrothers had it to the degree that Srila Prabhupada did. I mean, they're preaching, they're making devotees. He said they're going back to Godhead. That's not the question. The question is who understands. Prabhupada said the Acharya is one who understands the order of his spiritual master. So Prabhupada understood it. So to me, that's the really significant thing that Prabhupada did. That he's willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of us. That's what seems to me to be really unique about him, and what should be the distinguishing mark of ISKCON is this extreme desire, a strong desire to sacrifice to everything to give Krishna consciousness to others. But there's more to be learned. Do we have time to go on? I mean, there's more people with... Okay, 15 more minutes, yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhu, for a very nice presentation. It's very enlightening. It's a perfect introduction to read the book, in my opinion. One question I have is, you briefly touched upon when Srila Prabhupada got this title founder Acharya, and you mentioned he was bold enough to take that, but I was wondering if you could elaborate on the mood and the circumstance at what point when the founder Acharya title was applied to Srila Prabhupada.
Well, the interesting thing, it shows up. I went through the old Back to Godheads. They're online. You can get facsimile copies of all the Back to Godheads. And so Prabhupada, when you look at I'm trying to find out where it first shows up. By 1970, when there was this first crisis, and his name on the book was just Acharya. Prabhupada got really upset. But early on, like in ISKCON in 66, I looked at Prabhupada, if you look at page 71 in the book, Prabhupada, personal ISKCON letterhead stationery said simply Acharya, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta was there. And then the first flyer that came out, the Stay High Forever flyer, September 1966, same thing. But then when you look at Back to Godhead, it's not there either, except in the second and the fourth issue, September of 66 and December, you see what's the standard way to this day of presenting Srila Prabhupada in Back to Godhead magazine. In these two early ones, Prabhupada was under this elm tree in Tompkins Square Park. And there was a local newspaper called the East Village Other. And there's a picture of Prabhupada, two different pictures of him in front of this tree. So one of those pictures is in the second and fourth issue. On the space above the photograph, it says, His Divine Grace, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Founder Acharya, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So that's where it shows up. It's already 66. It's like the fall of 66. It's there, like 1 year after Prabhupada came. There you see this Founder Acharya. Fall and then the winter. But then sometime it vanishes under the next issues and then shows up again in issue number 28, late 69. And then it's the same treatment. It's identical. The photograph of Prabhupada. And notice it doesn't say Prabhupada yet because that came a little later, but the Founder Acharya of ISKCON, like that, it shows up. But then it's not until late in 1970, issue number 36, they stopped dating the issues so they could distribute them anytime. Old ones, no one would say this is so they stopped, just had numbers and no dates on them. Then you start seeing very regularly, all the time, this way it is now, with his a picture of Prabhupada above his name and position given in full. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Founder Acharya, so on. So it happened like that. So it's very clear that Prabhupada had it in mind very early on. And just so here, all I can think of is, this is where I get the idea that Bhakti, they're being used for Bhakti Siddhanta by Nishikant Sunyal in a couple of places, and that it was being prepared for him. And when it's just that when Prabhupada, when he saw, his mission was going to go on, suddenly it's there for him. I think he had a certain degree of foresight, or at least intuition, that something was really now going to happen. There is some evidence that he had this strong idea that there will be temples in the future, that Krishna let him know that now it's established, and he knew that. Okay, that's the best I can do on that one.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have a quick question on the picture of I feel like it's a little off focus. Is that because of purpose or?
Manu Savita, who's on our committee and also did the layout, very much wanted this picture. He loves this picture. And it was
Deliberately.
Huh?
Off focus. It's deliberately.
Yeah, so it's deliberately a soft focus picture. Sometimes you see commercials that use the soft focus.
And what is the reason behind it?
What is the purpose behind it being off focus?
It's a softer, more gentle mood, I suppose.
And makes you wonder.
Makes you wonder. But my responsibility doesn't extend to the cover. I leave that up to other people. Even the title is, that's. Sodamini, yes.
I'm still not clear, maybe Maharaj knows, people are always asking me, how they can get books, or they have a few books, I know that it's available online. Is there still some hold-up of delivery? What's the mechanism?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, what I did is, these books are meant to be distributed freely. And during the Gaur Festival and GBC meeting time, when we had the ILS, ISKCON Leadership Sangha, we expect that's the time we release the book. And we wanted the devotees to take them to their respective places because the leaders were there from different parts of the world. But many of them didn't want to carry because they were already overweight and, when they come to India, they will have to buy things. So then I made arrangements to ship the books, and the shipment has arrived in America, and we brought 5,000 copies, and I actually wrote to all the GBC members because thinking that they are the ones they can actually figure out, how many copies they need in which temple. And, that's how we are distributed. The books are here in America. They're sitting in New Jersey.
Always in New Jersey. Anyway.
Why? Always because I found somebody who took the responsibility from there.
Such an important state, huh?
Anyway, America is a small country. And for Washington Temple, I think they wanted about 300 copies or something. And Purnachandra is here. Purnachandra is taking care of this distribution. He is also one of the organizers of this retreat. I think he is busy taking care of other things. He was quite busy in the kitchen also. If you need some copies, please let us know. I will send them.
I had heard that they still weren't in the country, so
you see, the shipment took some time to arrive, I have to send it by sea, ocean, couldn't send it by air. And that's why it just arrived about a month and a half ago. And then, there was a lot of difficulties to get it out of the customs. So the distribution started.
Dadi Shakti said that she was just doing a favor to Guru Das, said, oh yes, I'll pick up the books, and all of a sudden they were going to be in customs, they wanted 3 or 4 times more money, it's like, it wasn't, I don't know if you ran into that trouble, maybe you had better connections.
That's why we just, we sent one shipment to America, one shipment to UK. The UK will take care of the European distribution, and USA will take care of the local distribution.
Thank you very much.
So thank you.
Did you fund it all yourself? Probably your disciples. Thank you.
No, we want the books to be.
You paid for the printing, did you not?
Huh?
You paid for the printing, huh?
Who paid for the shipping?
Yeah, the shipping. Arrange for the payment, I should say. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu, once again for the amazing presentation. I just wanted to, it's a more generic question if it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, one thing you mentioned struck with me was when you say we obviously owe a debt to Srila Prabhupada, of course. And every time I hear such examples of how much sacrifice Prabhupada took and the hardships he went through to set up ISKCON for us, it obviously increases my appreciation. So I just wanted to hear from you, Prabhu. Of course, books like these, your hard work in preparing it, and the support from GBC in distributing it, sharing with all the devotees, of course, is very important, because that's like a top down. It's coming down to create more awareness and education. I just wanted to, just wanted to hear, Prabhu, what can we do as the devotees, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, to, in addition to, of course, educating ourselves and sort of protect ourselves from any kind of influence, if I may say, from people to mislead. So what can we as devotees do our little bit to show our appreciation and pay that Srila Prabhupada? If you have any words.
Well, I think we show it by following his orders and his instructions, and the challenge I think that we face, and that Prabhupada has tried so hard to correct, because the Gaudiya Math fell apart. And it did so because of people put other things higher than the order of the spiritual master, and it seemed to have been on the Gaudiya Math side a kind of personal ambition that was there, and so that's still our challenge. Is to see what it takes to really advance in Krishna consciousness, to take the order of the spiritual master as our life and soul, and make that our main focus. There's stuff in the book about how Prabhupada's own realization that he got when he tells how he got inspired to do what he did. When Prabhupada got the order from Prabhupada again at the end of his life to preach in English, and he said when he got this letter, the last letter he got from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was, he said, my godbrothers, they are serving you. They're sannyasis and brahmacharis. I'm a householder. I can't do much. Is there anything I can do to serve you? So I just, on an impulse, I wrote him. And he wrote back, he said that yes, you can push on this movement in the English language. And first of all, it echoed the same thing that he said to him when he first met him, when he was like 22 years old. You know English, you should do this. And second of all, Prabhupada said, how can I do this? I mean, he was a householder, he was entangled in business. It seemed like mission impossible, because it was this thing. So many of his leaders had been told to do this, and here he is, and he's not even a sannyasi. He's got children and all these things. And then Prabhupada said, I got some inspiration from reading this commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on the Vyavasa Admika Buddhi verse in Bhagavad Gita, that the secret of success is to accept the spiritual master, take that order, and just follow it, and don't worry about even being saved or not saved. Just do it. I got some inspiration, so I tried a little along those ways. That's what he says he did like that. So that was the particular order to go to the West. But then Prabhupada said to us, I'm giving you the same order. Go to the West meant have feeling for suffering humanity. And that's the way he put it for us, that people are suffering for want of Krishna consciousness. So if we can take that as our main goal, to deliver people to the teachings and practices given by Lord Chaitanya, and make that the main thing, and I don't worry about success or failure, just do everything I can do. Take what position I'm in now and do everything I can do. Try to cultivate the holy name properly by trying to give up offenses, and try to make myself the servant. Then we will be successful. Then it will work out. When I got the idea that I want to be the servant, but I want to be an important servant. Or any kind of other, we're supposed to be anya abhilashita shunyam. We're supposed to be devoid of all these other extraneous things. And we all may have these desires in our heart for profit, adoration, and distinction. But we should just identify them as the enemies and be striving very hard to get rid of them. That we have these things in our hearts. Well, okay, we took birth. Come on, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't have taken birth again. So we can, okay, that's the deal. We're fallen. But I should not try to serve those things, but rather try to enlist all the resources of Krishna consciousness, becoming free from those things, these anarthas. We should go through the process of anartha nivritti. And we can do it. I mean, it's not that we have to be anything great. We just have to take all the resources that Lord Chaitanya has given us to begin with and use them. And once actually we do that, then Krishna will give us all help. Nobody can say I can't do it. That's not allowed. Everyone can do it. That's the best feature of Lord Chaitanya's movement. And you just take the next step. If we look where we are now in Krishna consciousness and where we think we ought to be, we go, it's like a breathtaking. Even Prabhupada says that when Bhaktisiddhanta was appearing to him in a dream and telling him to take sannyas, Prabhupada said, I was horrified. He said, so even Prabhupada had that reaction, But just take the next step, and if we take the next step, then everything that we have to do will come. You don't have to do the whole thing at once. You just have to do the next thing, and then when that's done, then you'll see the next step, and Krishna will empower us. That's what we should all do, because actually all the resources that we need to advance in Krishna consciousness. And we have to advance ourselves in order to help other people too. You can't give what you're not doing yourself. You have to teach by example. So that's what we have to do.
Thank you.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for that most enlivening.
Who's speaking? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Sorry about that. For that erudite and most scholarly presentation, and it's always very enlivening to have a scholarly research take in the realm of Krishna consciousness, especially if you're trying to preach to people who are scholars.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, when Srila Prabhupada adopted the title of founder Acharya, is there any evidence or at all of what the reactions were of his godbrothers to this?
Oh yeah, they didn't like it. Oh, they were very, very upset. That's another indication that they knew what it was, and the fact that he had taken that title was a kind of, they took offense. That probably, of course, now you see everybody's founder Acharya. It's all over the place. Somebody's got one little temple and a little bit of land and then the founder Acharya or something. But as far as I did research, it's all kind of post Srila Prabhupada's doing it. Nobody else did it until he did. Now they jumped on the bandwagon. So the currency may have come a little devalued in that way. But no, they didn't like it. And when Prabhupada really insisted on it was when and made it important and wanted to see it was on every issue of Back to Godhead magazine, was when he found a conspiracy. Prabhupada Prabhupada had sent some of his early disciples to India. They were staying at Bal Maharaj's places. He reinitiated some of them. He criticized this founder Acharya thing and so on. And so they were offended by it. Yeah. I don't want to be too nasty about, huh?
Their main objection actually was using the title Prabhupada.
Yeah, that
was the thing that actually kind of made them very, very upset.
Yeah, because Bhaktisiddhanta was Prabhupada, and he took that. Yeah, that's true.
Actually, one thing, by that, like I was just reflecting on that during Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, the title must have become quite prevalent, That's why when they kind of, started to build their own little temples, they all assumed the title founder.
Yeah.
So, they didn't really understand the purpose of the institution and the need for a founder Acharya at the head of the institution. They thought, I am founding an ashram, my temple, and I am the Acharya's founder.
Right. Okay? That's good for now. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada.